right, welcome to another episode of At Witt's End.
Your guys.
I'm Ken. That's Carson. Carson's 6,000 miles away, 6 hours difference. So what
Not 6
evening there?
hours. You were not on the East
So
Coast.
I'm sorry, 9. I forgot. Yeah, that's from the East Coast.
We even had a
Um,
discussion in our intro last time about the time difference when the time changes. So you should very much know what our time difference
eh,
is.
us old guys forget things.
Yeah,
So
it's very true. Even
yeah.
though you say you don't get anything, you do forget everything.
Oh, I do forget some things. Oh, there's a
Yeah.
new sign too. That was a Christmas present, although they spelled it wrong. But
Yeah, but I don't
that's
think
okay.
was it a custom made sign? Just
I think it was a custom made sign.
oh, okay. 'Cause, yeah,
Yeah, because
that's the
they
normal way to spell wits.
Yeah,
Wit.
but we're for those of you that don't know our last name, that's
It's
with
a
two
play on
T's.
the last name.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I
where
think
you're at.
it's I think it's a good name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. Hey, well, how do you want to start? We're getting a lot of sports, but it's kind of the high sports season. But you want to talk about the weather real quick?
Yeah, I guess it's been a big story around you 'cause it's been rather weird, and a lot of
Well, it's probably
different
the biggest
weather
story.
for
Yeah,
California.
but it's kind of like people complain and talk about it. It's such a big news story, and yes, it's important. But I don't know if it's in the news in Europe, and I don't even know if it's that big on the East Coast. But I do know it is on national news. We've had, well, it was 17 straight days of rain up until a few days ago. There was a break. There was a little bit of sunshine. Now it's raining again. Tahoe has like not inches of fresh powder, but like 12 feet of fresh powder. So the pictures are phenomenal. Uh, the resorts are open if you can get to them. 80 gets shut down regularly right now. But some people are freaking out, but we need it here in California. We haven't built any reservoirs. We've been in a drought. But I do find it kind of funny that it seems like the news comes up with new terms every year for weather patterns. I still go by El Nino,
La Nina.
um, La Nina, and El Nino. One's for drought, one's for God. Which one's which? Wet years El Nino. So they
I thought it was
predicted
the
last.
other.
No,
I don't know. Either
La
way,
Nina.
it's one of
La
them.
Nina is the dry years, drought years. So they're predicting 2023 was still going to be La Nina, but it's El Nino now. So we're getting hit pretty heavy. The storms are coming through. But
Well,
what's one of the new
well,
terms? A weather cyclone.
yeah, well, no, you actually got hit by a literal cyclone out of the Far East. So a cyclone came across the Pacific, passed by Hawaii without hitting Hawaii. They got spared. They were in a wild. I was looking at the radar. They were in like a stream of like perfect weather. Just north of them was this like massive cyclone that
So
directly hit Northern California.
yeah. Well, but the unusual thing is not only Northern California but Southern California, and again, our hometown of Santa Barbara is getting slammed. But Santa Barbara, if you're not familiar with it, it's on the coast with mountains. So
And
for
they've been
hit with
devastated by
fires.
wildfires. So it's been when you have a wildfire, it destroys the plant life, and the plant life is what keeps the hillsides from
Soil. Yeah.
the soil from eroding and giving way. And where those fires burn, if you come in with massive rainstorm, you just get mudslide, and that's what
Yeah. Who's
happens a lot
who's the
in Santa
talk show
Barbara.
host? She was posting the creek by her house. Oh, Ellen. I
Yeah,
think she
there
lives
was a
near
few
Oprah.
there was a few videos on TikTok that went viral. I saw them actually here on Austrian TikTok.
Oh, you
Um,
did?
yeah,
Okay.
some Santa Barbara folk posting about the creeks that are just like the start of the creek, and now there's a river and no bridge. Like bridges were getting wiped away. So
Well, we used to live right next to Mission Creek, so I wonder. In fact, you guys used to play in Mission Creek when there was, pools would come up. I just wonder what that looks like. But it, they're acting like they're surprised and that they didn't have any warning. But God, if you know Santa Barbara, you're from California, you should know this is going to happen and prepare for it. Get your house ready, get sandbags, or leave the area.
and thanks to my aunt for posting. Shout out to her. Happy birthday.
Oh yeah,
Um,
happy birthday.
I did see she shared a post about Lake Kachuma is completely full for the first time since 2011, and it is a major reservoir for that area. And I know it's a
Well,
touchy subject for you, water in
it,
California.
it yeah, it is. But I'll tell you a short story about Santa Barbara, the political astuteness or lack thereof. So Santa Barbara is actually one of the few cities in America or in California on the coast that we they built when we lived there a desal plant because of the drought.
What is a desal
And
plant?
takes seawater, takes the salt out, and makes it drinkable, potable water. So uh, expensive to do, but Santa Barbara built one because I can't remember what drought it was, 83 or 93. As you can tell, there's been multiple droughts, but I think it was 93, the early 90s. Uh, Kachuma was pretty much dry like it has been recently. And Santa Barbara, for some unknown reason, decided not to hook up to the California aqueduct when it was built many moons ago. And so they rely for their drinking water on Lake Kachuma. So Lake Kachuma was down. In fact, I think it had gotten below where that you could actually pump any water out of it. And they had said it wouldn't fill up for 30 years. So they rushed through some bonds, built a multi-million dollar desal plant. And I think it went online in end of April. And then Santa Barbara was hit with the March miracle. I think it rained for like 30 days. It rained that entire month of March. Lake Kachuma filled up in 30 days, not 30 years. So what did Santa Barbara do? They mothballed the desal plant, and I believe they sold it to Dubai. I'm not 100% sure, but it was a Middle Eastern country or city they sold it to. And then recently with the drought, they were talking about reinstituting and bringing back a desal plant. So that's the quick story on Santa Barbara's water wars or stupidity. Um, but what about in Europe? There's a big story there, but I think it's changing as we speak.
Yeah, it's
The
not a
beautiful Alps have had no snow.
Yeah, I think it's changed a lot recently, but over the Christmas holidays, which is like the beginning of the ski season here, and in Austria, that is a religious fair. Outside of the obvious religious nature of Christmas and the New Year, skiing is life here in Austria, and Christmas holidays tend to be the opening of ski season, and at that time there was like no snow in the mountains. It was kind of crazy.
Zip.
They were making a little bit of snow, but the paths were very small, like handmade or man-made snow. And there were thousands of people in these little tiny patches of snow with just grass and rock everywhere else. And
Yeah, I think you had to
this
find a
this was the
glacier to
Alps.
do any skiing.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
had to go
and
high up to places where snow
like Zermatt.
doesn't melt during the entire year. So it was pretty rough for a lot of the Austrian, Swiss, French Alps during the Christmas holiday. But in recent weeks, that has started to change. Snow's gotten a little bit more, but it's still not as high of levels as they'd want. um, I have seen out of like the Scandinavian countries, Finland, Norway. There's been a massive amount of snow there, so which is not any outside the norm, but very different from the southern part of Europe, i.e., the Alps, um,
Yeah,
which typically at this time do have a lot of snow, but I assume they're below where they're at normally. Definitely the opposite of what you're seeing in the California Alps this year, Nevada.
oh, it's phenomenal. What my cousin Ilse and her good friend Hervig, I'll throw out their names. So they were in the Alps and posting pictures that they finally had some snow. So I actually sent her a picture of what Tahoe looked like, and I think the snow was at about 12 to maybe 16 feet high in this one section. But it reminded me of a quick story, not to go too much sideways, but I do find it interesting. When Melly was here, second cousin, we went up to Donner Pass. And it's kind of like the old story about the sound of music. You assume people know what the sound of music. I assume she knew what Donner Pass was and why it was named after. But I forget that's American history and more
That's like
specifically California.
California.
California. I even wonder if people on
No
the East
way.
Coast or the Midwest even know what
Uh,
why it's named Donner Pass.
I bet
So just a
people.
quick
I bet people in Southern California and Central California don't know what that is.
God, I hope not, because that's a sad indictment of our
Oh no!
educational
I mean,
system.
shoot. What am I saying? I bet people around Donner Pass don't know what Donner Pass is named for.
No, you can't say that.
Oh, I can
I mean,
say that. I bet it
it,
is.
it's one of the highest points. It's a pass through the mountains, but it's famous for the Donner Party. And if you don't know what happened, it was pioneers moving west to California decided to try and get into California. They thought it was going to be clear. They got stuck at the pass and got snowed in for the winter. And what did they have to do for food? They had to partake of each other.
They're cannibals. They had to
So
cannibalize each other for the, you know.
yeah, but you can't.
They weren't
You can't.
cannibals, but they had to
They were
cannibalize.
forced, yes, to survive.
Yeah.
So hence the name Donner Pass. There's a Donner Museum there. A bit of California history for you. But I hope people in elementary school and junior high in California know about it because it's sad if they don't.
I mean, yeah, at the time you learn it, like when you're in elementary and middle school, high school, whatever, I can't remember what age you learn it. Yeah, they probably know it, but the average adult in your community probably, yeah, it'd be
Don't. I'll be disappointed.
hard to
So
say. Be a good thing for you to make a
huh.
TikTok. You can walk around Rockland and you
Yeah, I
know
guess I've got to get into
interview
that.
adults, interview adults, and
Yeah,
ask them
I'm too
general.
old to be on TikTok.
Oh no, the
You
old
got to
people
be a
go
girl doing
viral.
dance moves.
Old people go
So
viral, but
so
transitioning. It's not. There's no good transition there.
sports.
We're talking.
It's a big week.
Yeah. Well, I had no transition out of that. Maybe I watched some
Well, no,
YouTube
wait.
boxing that had
I have a good
TikTokers.
transition. We were talking about the Donner Party, and some American football teams got annihilated and eaten up by their opponents, cannibalized
Cannibalized.
by their opponents. So that
Yeah,
takes us to the college national championship.
that's not a great one. I'll say that. Mine wasn't great either. I was gonna say, it wasn't the sport we were gonna start talking, but I watched some YouTube slash TikTok influencer boxing last night. The KSI fight card in England, and you wouldn't know about that, but that's okay. It was
Yeah, you're
interesting.
right.
Couple knockouts, so that was cool to see some YouTubers knock each other out.
Wait,
Um,
who's the YouTuber that started boxing? Blonde haired guy.
KSI and Logan Paul.
Logan Paul. I think
What
he's in trouble because of a pig.
he, I don't. So he's in trouble for me because of he scammed crypto stuff. That's a whole nother story. The pit story, it's not. It's a non-story to me because when he moved to Puerto Rico for getting out of
But
taxes. Well, let me
yeah, if you're
finish.
not familiar with this guy, you
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
tell
Logan
him who
Paul's
he
a
is.
big YouTuber, but he's been in a lot of scandals, and he was making his way back to being, he got his image back after a big scandal, years ago, and now there's been another one with crypto, but there's been also another one that happened just recently about a pig, and if you don't know, Logan Paul he moved to Puerto Rico from Southern California to
But he
avoid
got a little
taxes.
pig.
Well,
He got a little
he
pig,
bought a little pig that turned into a
and
big
it
pig.
grew.
Yeah,
But he
yeah,
loved it. Slept with it and
yeah.
stuff.
He was new to the pig, and but when he moved to Puerto
It
Rico,
sounds stupid.
yeah, it sounds ridiculous. He moved to Puerto Rico, and I don't know how we got to this topic, by the way. And he didn't take the pig, which
Sports.
it's reasonable not to take the pig with you to Puerto Rico. It'd be a tough move on a pig, man. You gotta go for and
Well, wait. I'll interject. Did you go with us when we've been to Puerto Rico?
yeah,
Have
yeah,
you ever
yeah.
been?
Well, I've been,
Okay.
but I was like, don't remember
Yeah.
kind of age.
But anybody who knows Puerto Rico, I mean, there's chickens running around everywhere and they end up on your plate.
Yeah,
If he'd have taken that pig to Puerto Rico, that pig would have been on somebody's plate at breakfast.
but I'll continue just logistically. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Plus, a pig probably
No,
lives a
it
good
doesn't.
life in Southern California.
Yeah.
But back to the primary story. So he moved and he rehomed the pig to a good farm, and that farm, took care of the pig, and something happened to that farm, and they rehomed it to another
Yeah.
farm, And that farm that had the pig left the pig in a field, and it was found by a an animal sanctuary that found another pig next to it that was dead, and Logan Paul's old pig was alive, and they saved Logan Paul's old pig. So I think realistically, it's a non-story. It's just it
It
used
is.
to
It's
be
a
his
stupid
pig,
story.
but
It's a stupid story.
his crypto story is a bigger story, and that was actually more
I,
interesting, but very
I don't know the
long,
pigs.
very
Yeah,
long story to go over, and I won't go into that. But
but
uh,
going back to the pig real quick.
oh
The other
jeez,
thing about pigs are when they go back into the wild, usually they go back. You know what do you call it? They go back to their natural. They grow tusks. They get wild again. They're not the best. So this pig obviously was pretty pampered and pretty
it was a
soft, or he'd have been
domesticated
a
pig.
yeah. I mean, in California, people want to go hunt the boar. You know, that's what they turn from a pig into a boar again.
Yeah, boar are way
Because,
different than domesticated pigs. That's
but
for
that's what a
sure.
pig is. Yeah,
Yeah,
domesticated pig within months will start getting the tusks again and start tearing up land. Pigs are terrible. Good eating
yeah.
bacon though. So
Don't be
anyway,
bad. Don't say bad things about a nice pig.
no.
Anyway, back to sports. So let's go back. Um,
Monday night,
College football playoff championship happened this
the
past
big
Monday.
game of the year.
Yeah,
Yep.
big game. I think last time we talked about it, we talked about predictions. So I thought Georgia was going to win. I think you thought Georgia was going to win too.
Yeah,
Um,
you were a little closer. I said the spread was going to be 21.
and I said it. I said there was no chance that TCU blows them out. I thought there was a very little chance that TCU wins, like a minuscule chance, but there was a possibility. But very close game, like last second field goal kind of chance. Um, I thought most likely it was going to be like a 14 point or under game, and then I thought there was a still good probability that Georgia was going to blow them out, and they blew them out. Like they just,
Historically so.
yeah, they destroyed TCU 65-7.
Yeah.
And
It was not even a competition.
it started in the second quarter. It was over at halftime, but the second quarter was
Yeah.
what blew the game wide open. It was, I think, 17-7 at the end of the first. It was a reasonable game, and then the second quarter they just dropped, I think, 17.
Yeah.
TCU didn't score, and it was over because Georgia's not giving up that many points to anyone.
And I
Um,
hate to say it, it really gave validation to the folks that said Alabama and Ohio State should be in it.
no, TCU earned the right to be there. I think TCU
They
earned
earned
it.
they earned the right, but they definitely had God on their side up until that game because
It
they had some miracles. It
it
was a
gave
miracle season for them.
validation to wanting an expanded college football playoff. That's all I'll say
Yeah, I'll
about
agree with
that.
that.
I don't think it's valid that Alabama should not have been there. There's zero chance I think Alabama should have been there
Well,
because
it validated the strength of the SEC.
yeah, but I think Alabama had their chance to be there and they didn't take it.
They blew it. Yeah.
TCU had their chance to be there and they took it. So same with
Michigan,
Michigan and
same
Ohio
thing.
State. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
um,
it was a sad game. I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, and you had a story you knew about it that happened today. A sad one,
yeah,
tragic.
sad one. I don't know a lot of the details, but so you'll have to do some research on your own. But I saw the headline that a college football player from Georgia and a staff member from the University of Georgia football team tragically died in a car accident. I believe two other staff members for the University of Georgia football were injured in that same car crash. So, um, yeah, sad story out of the University of Georgia after such a big week, big
Yeah,
last couple weeks for them. So
yeah. Sad thing. Well, rest in peace. Hopefully, I don't know.
yeah, as you look
Prayers go
back
out to
on
the family.
the
What can you say?
so as you look back on the college football season, as primary college football fans, what was your biggest takeaway of this season?
Um, well, if TCU had been competitive, I would have said, well, they were legit. Disappointments with SC, USC, they blew it. Um, Georgia back to back. And the one thing I'll come away with this season is I'd hate to play Alabama next year.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if you were watching the game, you know that the Saban was
Nick
somewhat
Saban's
insulted.
face. Yeah,
He's pissed, so he's gonna go out for blood next year. I won't say he'll run up the score, but he's
and
gonna be
I won't
very
say
aggressive.
yeah, I won't say it was a down year for Alabama because they won 11 games or 12 games. Um,
Yeah,
they lost to,
For Alabama, it's a down year.
but it was
For
a
any other football team, it was a good season.
yeah, it was a legendary season for most teams. It was a disappointing year, I think, for them because obviously they expect to be in the playoff and one of those
Yeah,
top
which
four
they should.
slots for sure. I don't think they
Ohio
should
State
have
should
been,
expect
but
it.
they should expect it.
Yeah,
It does. I do feel good that there are teams that are competing and beating Alabama. Now and I don't like the fact that Georgia is now become this dominant force, but I don't think they're going to stay there.
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
they'll
they can
dominate like
do
Alabama does.
no.
Yeah,
Um,
I think this may have been the year.
and one of the things that I it's tough with college football lately in recent years is the lack of other teams kind of being in the fight at the top. So for me, this was the first true Cinderella team to make it to the national championship,
With
and
TCU. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and I don't know
That's why
how
I think
long.
everybody was hopeful, and we
Yeah,
have friends that are from TCU, and
but to have
so
a Cinderella team in there is very cool, and I really am hopeful for the college football playoff expanding because you see the football championship subdivision that has an expanded playoff. It's very fun to watch, exciting. It still ends up a lot of times. I think it was a North Dakota South Dakota championship game, and it was a
yeah,
what one
yeah, it
v
was.
was a 1v2 matchup in seeds or
Yep.
1v3 matchup. No, 1v3 because
But
Sac State was number two.
yeah, that's the other thing is congratulations to Sac State. Great to see a local high school coach that we are very familiar with kind of come up through and lead the local university to championship season and almost to the
Best season in
national
their
championship.
history, yeah.
Yeah,
And I will
and
say, Sac State, as a whole, doing big things because they are the top team in the for basketball right now in their conference as well.
well, I, Carson's very familiar when we first moved here. The facilities at Sac State are not, how should I put it, up to par with a university that is in the largest one of the largest economic states in the world, and we're the state capital. The football facility has been built up a little bit, but it's still not.
It
It's
is
a very nice high end
it's
Texas high school football
it's
stadium.
expensive bleachers basically.
The
It's
Yeah, the gym basketball gym is, oh, if you were in a traveling team and you went and played on a military base, it's kind of a military base gym. Is how I would describe
but
it. Kind of weak.
they are doing well in sports, and I know their baseball team has done well recently as well.
Yes, baseball programs are excellent.
So if these teams continue to win, it's bid for the expansion of these facilities. And I know when you win, you bring in money, you bring in better
Yeah.
facilities. So
Well, we see because the head coach, God, what's his name?
Taylor, Troy
Taylor
Taylor,
moved on to. He's now taken over Stanford's
bid
program.
bid.
So we'll
Congrats to
see
him.
what happens at Sac State, and we'll see what happens at Stanford next year.
I
So
did, if you remember, I called that in one of our previous episodes. I said
yes, you
he would
did.
end up at Stanford. So I did call that.
I was a little bit surprised because it wasn't. Usually, there's press releases or somebody hears something unconfirmed, but it was pretty quiet up until they actually made the announcement. Everybody knew he was interviewing, but nobody knew for sure he would get it.
Yeah, but
And so,
it's a
yeah,
great opportunity for him. It's still local to his home Sacramento area, so it's not far from
I would
where he
just
started his career.
I would like to see West Coast teams start to compete with the boys back east and in the South. I'd like to see SC come back and end up in a national championship.
I think they
Um,
can. They have a chance next
they
year. They're,
could,
the only
but
thing they're
yeah,
missing is their defense. Like if they did a
yeah.
defense next year, they could be out there. So
I mean, when the Pac-12 was in a bowl game with somebody, I just assumed Pac-12 was going to lose, and so far they've pretty much done that. But how about the NFL? Let's move on to the NFL. Some
yeah,
interesting games there too.
starting this weekend. So we're recording this on a Sunday before the end of the
Yeah,
first
the
game of the
Bills.
day.
The
Yeah,
Bills are playing right now. Miami and Buffalo. Buffalo's up 17-6, and 2 minutes left in the second.
yeah. The Niners, after a
So
slow start yesterday, dominated the Seahawks. Very unsurprising. Um, the talk of the town, the talk of the league
they
right
started
now. Brock
is
Purdy. I mean, dude,
little Iowa boy,
Mr. Irrelevant. Coming to California
irrelevant. Yeah,
out of Iowa State,
Iowa.
Iowa State, and
Yeah, Cyclones.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Iowa State.
Hey, he's the weather cyclone.
Yeah, yeah.
I should play that up.
But I will
Hey,
say,
San Francisco, you can steal that from me. Use that in your marketing.
yeah, I will say, for the circumstances for a rookie to come into, obviously I don't want to say got lucky, but his opportunity came forward with the injuries of the two guys ahead of him, Trey Lance and
He's a hard
Garoppolo.
worker. I
But
think the thing that he's average looking. That's what I think everybody loves.
what I think is insane is he's gotten very lucky into the team he got put into because his supporting cast is
Yeah,
crazy. It is
yeah.
astonishing the amount of talent they have on the offensive side of the ball. Even before they traded for Christian McCaffrey midseason, and adding McCaffrey was
Seems
just
like
a
McCaffrey kind
massive.
of turned everything for the
Well, he
Niners.
didn't turn everything, but he just added just a massive dynamic piece to
That's
an
what I'm saying.
already
But I'm just
dynamic
saying
offense.
that was a turning point for the Niners. So
Because the offense was centered around Debo Samuel before that, and
yeah,
after that, now you have Christian McCaffrey alongside. So you have these two guys that are extremely versatile. Probably the two most versatile player. They can run. They're in the
well
backfield. They're
they're
catching balls
and they're
they're
healthy now
crazy.
too.
Yeah, and the full team's healthy, and they
So in
had a
fact,
defense before that. So
yeah,
it's just
your good buddy, a gentleman you played with. I went to school with his dad. Uh, First play of the opening defensively of the game, Eric Armstead,
it's a
sack.
sack. Yep.
So
Yeah, I saw
yeah.
that.
Did you stay awake for the whole game?
Yeah, I watched the whole Niner game.
You
Um,
should actually tell the massive viewing audience and listening audience of our podcast uh, your experiences watching football recently,
Yeah, yeah.
American
I'm
football.
not one to fall asleep early, so I tend to be up when the late games of the NFL schedule are playing. So it's the 4 o'clock time slots typically. So with a you know, excuse me, not the 4 o'clock time slot, 7 o'clock time slot.
What the
Anyways,
best one I think is
anyways,
the Jaguars.
yeah. So I tend to be up like at 2 in the morning, right? And
AM.
2 a.m. in the morning and 3 a.m. in the morning. When these games are getting going, and
So
I'll
6
watch
p.m.
the
our time, West
I'll watch
Coast.
the first half or so. Fall asleep during them, and I was watching the Jaguars game. Right, the Jaguars playing host to the Chargers, and I watched the first half, and it was insane. There's 4 interceptions for Trevor Lawrence. The Chargers got out to a 27-7 lead, and it looked
At which point you
horrible.
could say, "I'm going to go ahead and go to bed because there's no way they're coming back.
Yeah, and
This
I was
game's
falling
over at
asleep,
half."
but I was awake for the start of the second half. I saw the Chargers give the ball back. The Jaguars did a stop. I was like, that's what they needed to come out of the second half. They needed to stop by their defense, and then I fell asleep right around as they were getting started on their first drive. The Jaguars were getting started as their first drive of the second half. I fell asleep, and that's the story ends there for me. I wake up and turns out the Jaguars won on a last second field goal, 31-30.
So
Completed
yeah, you
a
missed
massive
an,
comeback.
a
But
historic game. I think that's the biggest one since like 1992, and I can't remember who came back then.
well, no, you had the Super Bowl, Tom Brady and the Falcons, 28-3 recently. Um, and then
Yeah.
you had the game earlier this year, which I will continue my story by saying this is the third game this season that I have fallen asleep at the beginning of the second half, and a massive comeback has started because I was watching the Vikings play the Colts, where the Colts got out to a 30-0 or 33-0 lead, and the Vikings came all the way back and won that game in the second half. So I was watching that and fell asleep at halftime to that game. And then there was a Raider game. I can't remember who they were playing, but the Raiders blew up and lost their lead, ended up losing the game in the second half. And that was also a game I fell asleep watching. So I tend to fall asleep before the big comebacks happen. Those games early morning here in Austria.
Yeah, I mean, I can't give you a hard time about it considering what time it is there, and usually the games are a blowout in the first half, and then they come back. You know, I was kind of I want the Chargers to win. I still consider them the San Diego Chargers. I love their quarterback.
Herbert.
Who's their head coach? Staley. Staley. Yeah, that poor guy's going to be looking for a job or is looking for a job.
Yeah,
But
tough game for them.
unbelievable game.
Trevor
Yeah,
Lawrence, I mean, to have the mental fortitude to come back after throwing 4 interceptions in the first half, I mean,
but man,
big
he's
props to
done it
him.
his whole career from high school to
So,
college
you want to know
to.
an amazing fact about Trevor Lawrence? He hasn't lost on a Saturday since before high school.
I know that's what's
He has not lost on a
and
Saturday. And he played college football, which plays on
yeah,
Saturdays.
at Clemson, a national championship program,
But he had
ACC team.
two losses
Who
during his
was?
career, and neither of them were on a Saturday.
Oh, it just dawned on me when we went and saw the national championship game, Clemson, Alabama. Was he quarterback?
Yeah, he was a
Who was
freshman.
quarterback back then?
Trevor Lawrence, freshman.
Did he play that game?
Yeah,
Was he the
he was a
starter? I
freshman.
can't
Yeah, he was a freshman
starter.
starter.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hey, like I said, when I get old, so yeah. I mean that kid. But you know what bothers me the most, and I can't get it out of my head every time I see him, and it's just.
you see
Do you
sunshine
remember?
from Remember the Titans like I do.
No, I see that girl that looks just like him.
Oh, yeah from a few years ago. Yeah, that took
Yeah,
the
it made social media, and every time
kind
I
of went
see him, I
viral.
go, I wonder what that girl is doing because they did look exactly alike. So I wonder where she's at. I wish someone would bring her up and put her
Every
back on
time I
social
see
media again.
him, my head goes immediately to my favorite movie of all time. Shout out Denzel. Remember the Titans and Sunshine. That
Denzel
movie.
is one of the best actors ever.
Remember the
I love
Titans is
Denzel.
legendary. If you've never seen it, gotta watch it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, he's Sunshine because he's obviously he's not a California guy, but he just that
He's got
personality and the flow, the
the
hair
hair,
and
yeah, the
everything.
eye, yeah, yeah.
It's just like
But God, the guy was so calm, and it's like he knew he was going to do it.
yeah,
So I think
he's very
he made a
stoic.
statement. Yeah, he made a statement afterward, and I'm just paraphrasing. I had to make it happen because my guys work so hard. Something like that. That he said there was no way I was going to let them down because they'd worked so hard. And never met the guy, don't know him personally. You have a buddy that is on the staff there. Maybe someday he'll introduce us if we go to a game or something. But I kept looking for him on the sidelines, but didn't see him.
But
So
before we get to the final story, we'll talk about Super Bowl prediction. Who are the two teams playing and who wins? AFC. Who's your AFC team?
I don't know. I'm just not into it that much this year.
All right, so my AFC team, I think the Bills are going to make it. I think
Yeah,
it's
I
easy
like
pick.
the Bills.
NFC team,
I don't know. Who's yours?
I think the Niners are too hot and too good, and I think Brock Purdy takes them to the Super Bowl
I would love to
championship.
see it because that'd be a great story. Yeah, that matchup sounds great.
And
I would love
yeah,
to see
I don't
even the
think the
Bengals in it
Eagles.
because
I don't think the Eagles are good enough to beat the Niners in an NFC championship, even in Philly. I don't think that happens.
so today, obviously, I'm thinking the Bills are going to take it with the Dolphins. They're up 17-6. Ravens, Bengals. I'm rooting for the Bengals.
Yeah, don't really care. I mean, be close to the Bengals.
I like the quarterback. He's kind of college level kid that they had doubts about him, and he's doing the job. Giants Vikings. Kind of got to root for the Vikings just
Yeah, I
because of
don't.
your brother.
Either one could win that game
Yeah.
for me. It's a fun story for the Giants with their head coach. I think he's a legend around that corner. Both rookie head coaches, both first season head coaches in the playoffs. That's an interesting matchup there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so
So,
my Super Bowl, I think Niners, I think Bills. I think Bills beat the Chiefs in the title game. I actually think the Eagles don't make it to the NFC Championship. I think they lose at home to their division rival, the Cowboys. And I think the Cowboys finally get that jump into the NFC Championship. But I think they run into the wall of the Niners.
wow, the
In
Cowboys. That's a
I
team that
think
America's team that always disappoints America.
I think they make it
I
to
don't know
the
about the
NFC
Cowboys.
Championship. I think they beat the Eagles, but I think they run into the Niners, and I don't think the Niners lose to any team in the NFC right now.
Yeah.
And so I think the Niners Bills Super Bowl, which is awesome Super Bowl. Um, and I don't know who wins. I think that's a toss
Who
up
else? A West East Coast Super Bowl. That should
in
get good
Arizona.
ratings.
So I think the Niners
That
fans
should,
will dominate the. I don't know Bills Mafia. I think still
yeah, they
mostly be
travel.
Niners fans.
Plus, you got to remember most of those Bills, the Bills Mafia will want to get out of that cold weather. Hell,
Yeah.
they probably already have condos there.
So,
So,
but I think that would be a fantastic Super Bowl. I think, man, who do I pick for that one? I think the Niners take it. I think the Niners win the Super Bowl by 3
yeah.
in
Well,
a
good
very good
prediction.
game. So Niners over the Bills by 3 in the Super Bowl. I think it's
I'll,
31-28. I think they scored this.
wow, you're putting it out there early. I think you're right about that matchup. I just don't. I think the Bills might take that.
Close game though. I think
Yeah,
it goes
yeah,
either way.
yeah. It's not going to be a Georgia TCU
No,
game,
I think it goes either
and
way
it's
in
not.
that
It's
game.
it's not going to be a Jags Chargers game either.
They're pretty.
I
They're
don't
pretty
think either
evenly
one of those
matched.
teams.
The Niners definitely have the better run game. I also think the Niners have a better defense, but the Bills have
Yeah,
the big edge in the quarterback game. So it's a really good matchup. But all right, final
yep.
story before we end it here. This is a big one for you because I know you're interested. So F1 season is about to
Oh,
kick off.
okay.
And F1 cars debut in February for most of the teams. Most teams have announced that they're debuting their cars in February. That's exciting.
Oh,
But
March.
this story has nothing to do with any of the F1 teams. It has to do with all the F1 teams.
So a new team coming in.
There is a new team that is making their
Oh,
bid to
Andretti.
come in Formula One. Part of it. So Andretti has teamed up with General Motors and Cadillac Racing to join up as a singular force to get on the Formula
Cadillac
One
Racing.
grid. Now, you say that, and I knew you were going to say that. Cadillac Racing is actually a preeminent name in endurance racing. So they are very good in Daytona prototypes, in endurance racing all across the U.S. in the sports car racing endurance series. The Daytona prototypes, LMPIs, they have pretty good teams. So they're pretty well known. Cadillac Racing is well known there. And I say Cadillac Racing, that's basically just General Motors Racing arm.
I was gonna say I
Um,
can't picture Cadillac Racing.
yeah, so they're pretty
But
well known in the endurance series across the U.S. And they have joined forces with Andretti to put in a try and get into the Formula One grid. And so
wow.
that is, I
Well, I knew
think,
about Andretti. Shocking is GM.
I thought it was going to be Ford. Honestly, I thought Ford was going to try and get in, but I know,
Ford makes more sense to me
yeah,
just because of I
I
think they
thought
have a
Ford
rich
could get in,
history. Ford
but
GT.
they have more of
Um,
a racing pedigree on the worldwide stage. But Cadillac and GM recently have done a lot with endurance racing. They have
well, I
some
will
good
say
racing
Cadillac's
teams.
improved their offering,
They
but
have cool
it
cars.
still is kind
Yeah,
of well. I don't think they're at their point, but I think by getting into F1, that'll change. I mean, when I've said I like the Cadillac and thought about getting a Cadillac, everybody says, "Oh, it's that old man's car." It's what Seinfeld bought his dad in the Seinfeld episode. Got him a Cadillac when he went to Florida.
But
It's not got the youthful racing,
it is
extreme
it is
sports hobbyist
it is
crowd.
luxury, and when you think luxury and you think getting driven, I mean, the Cadillac Escalade is like what you get driven around in
Yeah,
nowadays.
that's what the drivers, when they get out of their race car, they get
Yeah,
into that and go back to their mansions
and
and
F1's all
estates.
about luxury, right? So, but I think it makes a lot of sense both for Andretti to have, you have the Andretti name, you have the support of a American automaker, which is massive. Um, that's a powerhouse of a team if they can get in.
When are they
And
going to
it's
launch?
there's no Formula One has to allow them in, and that means all the teams have to allow them in.
So,
And
so they basically said they're announcing a bid.
yeah, they're trying to get in, and they're partnering to try and get in to make their bid stronger. But the other 10 teams of Formula One have to say, okay, you can have some of my money, and the most
Does it have to be
profitable
majority?
has to be all of them. I'm pretty sure. No,
Oh, I wouldn't. Would
I
Haas?
think
Do you
it's
think Haas
majority.
would accept that?
Oh yeah, Haas would be fine with it. Well, it's not Haas's decision; it's Ferrari's decision at that point. Um,
Mm.
but it's really just about the Formula teams giving up money, because they'd have to divide up their shares again, and in the most profitable era ever in Formula One history, to
Yeah,
give
but
away money.
as they enter the U.S. market more heavily with Vegas, Austin,
Well,
and Miami, even
and
Montreal.
yeah, for Formula One as an entity in itself, it makes a lot of sense. An American team, a massive American team with a big name that is tied to Formula One, a manufacturer that is American and is big. But to the other teams, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Primarily because if you think of a lot of the major sponsors, there's a lot of American sponsors on there, and you know, if I'm an American
Well,
company and wanting to go with a team in Formula One,
yeah,
I'm probably want to go with an American team, right? And I know that doesn't exactly lend its hand to Haas, but Haas is kind of a bottom grade team. If Andretti and Cadillac were to produce a good car and a good team, yeah, you have the name in Formula in Andretti. He is synonymous with
yeah,
Formula One in America. You have a powerhouse brand in Cadillac and General Motors. If I'm an American company looking to sponsor, that's probably the first team I'm going for. So it's for the McLarens, the Mercedes, the Ferraris not so much. Those top teams are probably okay, but the Williams, the Alpines, like the teams that have American sponsors,
yeah.
that are lower on the grid, that's a tough battle for them. And they have to give up money. They have to give up their share of their profits.
Especially over the next couple of years, where a lot of major corporations are downsizing and rethinking their sponsorships.
Yeah, it won't.
So,
It
where will
won't.
your allegiance lie? You going to give up the McLaren and go with Cadillac?
No,
If say
yeah,
no,
I'll root for an American team, but I will probably
still be a
forever.
McLaren guy.
Yeah, I'll be an orange McLaren. I just McLaren, its history, and what it means to sport, what it did, what Bruce McLaren built. It's
What
like that's so
I'll tell you
cool.
something. I don't think I told you. So uh, your brother's buddy Daniel, Texan. He's moving back to California for a job opportunity. So he was here looking at homes. We met him up. We had a few beers and some pizza at our local hangout there. And I was wearing my Red Bull jacket, I think. And his dad, Calvin, said, Daniel is so into that. He can't believe one, that you have tickets to Vegas. And he said he had no idea because I used to make fun of
Take my
F1.
tickets.
Yeah, yeah. We've got tickets for sale if you need them. So it's, even down in Texas,
Well, I
some
mean
of the
that's where
NASCAR guys are making the switch.
F1's been the most recently. Has been Texas. So
Yeah,
Austin's been F1 in America for the
Austin's
past.
like a little island of different. It's it's hard to even call that
It's
Texas
it's
down
the
in
best.
Austin.
It's the best racing in America for
Yeah,
Formula One, and I mean I will say the most legendary video of the year in Formula One for me was there was a TikToker, a YouTube video or something that came out, and I shared it with you, of Charles Leclerc driving around the Circuit of the Americas at sunset
When
with
they,
the sun behind him and the Top Gun soundtrack playing. And it
yeah,
was and the American flag in the background waving, and it was the most beautiful thing. Like, it was incredible. It was incredible. It was perfect. It was perfect for American F1. I mean,
it's funny because most of the guys down in Austin are kind of dissing the whole Vegas street circuit. But I will say Vegas is going to be, as far as
oh
TikTokers,
Jesus.
influencers, memes, I think it's going to be outrageous what comes out of
Well,
Vegas during
and
the race. It already has been.
yeah, and you think of like Vegas, like they're having the Pro Bowl week, which I'm actually very excited for because it's no longer a game. It's like a bunch of
It's a
like
game of flag football.
well, flag football and other challenges that I'm more excited for than the game. Um, like, it's way better that they're doing that. It's fun to see. But like they have it in Vegas because that's where the players want to go, and it's the same for like
Yeah, I
you
feel bad for
know
Hawaii, but nobody.
nobody went out there. It's so
It was
far.
yeah,
It's
it
beautiful where
was
you're out there, but it's not Vegas for like the NFL, and it's the
yeah. The
same way.
stadium there is now most popular thing they do. There's a flea market, so
Yeah. So it's the same way for F1 and any other sport. Like having the event that is not like normal, like a standard event or something, like having a Pro Bowl or something like that.
yeah.
Vegas is the
Well,
best
that
host for it.
it is interesting though that Vegas has gone from a pariah as far as professional sports because of gambling in the last 20 years. And I'll credit the Maloofs, the former owners of the Kings, for changing that.
Terrible
They
owners, by
blew
the way.
it, yeah, but they were the first professional organization to truly try and move to Vegas and got politicians, probably bought off
Thinking,
some people,
thinking
thinking
about it.
about it,
Yeah,
reconsidering their stance on gambling and professional sports. They were maybe ahead of their time, weren't
yeah.
great business
way,
people,
way ahead of their
lost
time.
it, don't own the Kings anymore. I don't think they're a Budweiser distributor anymore. They
Everyone
don't own the
hates them.
Palms anymore. But yeah, I know because they comped me a few at the Palms a few times.
Yeah, and
So
yeah, they were
I
definitely
can't
ahead of their
complain.
time for that because right now Vegas sports, the
Is the
Raiders,
hot spot.
the Raiders were disappointing, but still the Raiders. They have an incredible stadium by the looks of it. The Vegas
Yeah.
Knights, I mean, one of the best franchise to come out the gates. Like the way they come out the gates, and they're just automatically competing for Stanley Cup championships in an awesome arena and on the Strip. Like Vegas sports has done it really well, and to have like they now have the Pac-12 basketball tournament there, the
Yes.
championship tournament. They have the Pro Bowl game that's gonna, or the Pro Bowl events that are gonna happen there, which is very cool. F1 Vegas is back. Like,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
What
it's fun.
back? I mean, let's face it. In '84, it was a little thing, a little go kart track around
Yeah, it's
Caesars.
crap.
But they've got the rodeo. They've got major concerts, residencies,
Vegas,
music festivals. Vegas has went from a ghost town
I
after
I
nine
would,
11
yeah,
to it's back and bigger than
I
ever.
wouldn't say they were ghosts. Yeah, they kind of, so they had a height in the 80s and 90s, but that was like, to me that was like the mafia era. Like, it wasn't like,
What it was where you went to gamble and you got comp to room and you
that
got
is
a
it.
lobster buffet for $6.95,
Yeah, and then
and that changed.
and
It
then
went
late,
family for a while,
yeah, late
and that
90s,
failed.
early 2000s sucked. Well, Vegas was a horrible place. Just an ugly place to be. And then the Vegas resurgence of late, and
Well, I think
it has
Steve
centered.
Wynn
Well,
Steve Wynn had a lot to do with it.
I will say it has centered around three things in my mind, or four things actually in my mind, that they've done an incredible job at. First of all, it is now a food mecca.
Yes,
Incredible food.
high end
Just the best food in the world is,
in
there's a lot of
Vegas.
restaurants in Vegas. Vegas
Best
has incredible food.
steakhouse. It's in
Um,
Chicago. Bavette's at the Nomad in
there's
Vegas is
there's
phenomenal.
so many options in Vegas.
Yeah.
Vegas obviously still entertainment killing it. Just the shows, the clubs, the residencies, killing it.
The residency is what's changed there too, and
Yeah,
the large festivals, the outdoor
the
festivals.
festivals, but also the nightclubs with like the EDM, the artists there.
Yeah.
I mean, have gone crazy. Um, the sports has just like now. This has been the newest evolution. The sports has just like evolved Vegas to the next step, and
Hmm.
then the final thing, luxury, just luxury, like luxury shopping, the luxury hotels, like City Center, and that I don't know the name of the mall like that's right there, but with all those like luxury stores, but the
Oh, right
luxury,
next to it.
yeah,
I
the
still like the Caesars Mall though. I still like the Forum
but
shops
but the
better.
luxury in Vegas has just
Yes.
like massively increased after going from like this gambling era of adults only to a family friendly Vegas in the early 2000s to now it's like adults in luxury,
Well,
and it's
and
so
I
crazy.
completely forgot about not just after 9/11, but the recession.
Yeah,
Uh, a few, what was it? Oh 08?
2008.
Yeah,
Yeah.
08. Yeah.
Oh eight, oh nine
Um,
spilling off. Yeah.
City Center was being built at that time, and it actually they couldn't close it down. They had to finish it. And I will say, I got to stay at some super luxurious rooms at the Aria, the Cosmo, and I think the Mandarin for a fraction of what they go for now. In fact, the three times I stayed at the Aria, I opened the door and it was like a vacuum. Nobody had ever stayed in these rooms. I found masking tape from being, it was freshly painted. And so I was the first guy to stay in the room. There was nobody in Vegas at that time. But since then, you can't get rooms. It's kind of sad. I mean, if you want to talk about capitalism and the divide between the wealthy and the not wealthy, Vegas is a perfect example.
So
So
it's an interesting place for sure. But this has been an episode where we have ran off
jumped around.
topic and jumped around, and interesting one. But we'll end it here. I hope that Andretti Cadillac news is interesting to you as a guy that really wants. I know
Yeah,
you really want Andretti into F1.
I do.
I also want him as well. I want America to get its shot and its people, and with
I want
Logan
him to. I
Sargent.
want him to. I want him to podium.
Yep. So I hope that's interesting news to you and to anyone listening.
Yep.
And I hope I that Las Vegas conversation I think was a good one. So I hope
Yeah.
maybe you learned
And if
something about
we do
Vegas.
have two tickets in the grandstands available,
A
and
start finish
if you
line.
need it, we have lodging. Yeah, right at the start finish line. They're not
Yeah.
cheap. We'll sell them at face value. But
Yeah.
that said, cheers, baby. We'll see you
Yep.
next
We'll
time.
see you next time at the At Wins
Yep.
podcast. Again, find us on YouTube for our vodcast, your favorite podcast platform that you're hopefully listening to us right now, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or whatever you may be listening on. We appreciate you listening, and we'll catch
Drop
you
us a
next week.
line.
See you later.
Cheers.